Shocking truths revealed about Jesus, what they got wrong and why it matters. Few knew what truly happened that night in the garden. A hush fell over the air, thick with tension. Shadows danced ominously beneath ancient olive trees, the moonlight barely touching the ground. The disciples, hearts racing, clung to each other, whispering about strange sightings and echoes of hushed voices. They felt the weight of destiny pressing down like a stone. What was about to unfold was beyond comprehension. Jesus prayed with agony etched across his face. Sweat cascaded down his brow, glistening like diamonds in the darkness. He was alone but not alone, burdened by the fate of the world, while his followers struggled to grasp the magnitude of their impending reality. A betrayal lingered in the air. Judas had slipped away into the night. The history of that night was steeped in prophecy. This garden, an intimate part of Jerusalem, witnessed the collision of human frailty and divine purpose. Just beyond its walls lay the city, thrumming with life yet asleep to the storm brewing under their very noses. The ancient scriptures foretold this moment, yet the emotions felt raw. Fear. Confusion. Anxious breaths hung in the cool night like fog, thick and suffocating. A rustle shattered the silence. The night watch stirred. Was it just the wind? Or something far worse? The sounds of marching, the glint of swords, the betrayal all of Jerusalem whispered about. No, they were not ready. More contradictions unfolded. How could a man known for healing be arrested? Why did they cry for blood when they saw miracles before their eyes? A sudden brightness, torches flickered, illuminating faces twisted in rage, and shadows lurking in the periphery spoke of doubt and disbelief. The disciples gasped. Was this really happening? Was the man who calmed storms and raised the dead now standing trembling before soldiers, the fear in his eyes masked by unyielding love? Yet, among the chaos, a flicker of hope remained. A glimpse of miracles waiting, overshadowed by tragedy. As each heartbeat echoed louder than the last, the chilling question lingered: what would it cost them to follow him now? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In that moment of tension, a profound stillness enveloped the garden, as if the very earth held its breath. The soldiers moved closer, their armor clanking softly, a dissonance of fear and authority. The disciples huddled further into the shadows, torn between their loyalty to Jesus and the instinct to flee. Each heart beat as one, yet they were acutely aware of their vulnerability, swimming through an ocean of doubt. With hesitant steps, Judas stepped forward, a figure flattened against the weight of his choice. His eyes flickered with an unfathomable mix of resolve and regret, a part of him grasping at the teachings he had shared with Jesus, now overshadowed by the coin in his pocket. The others watched, disbelief etched across their faces. How could one who walked so closely with the light turn to shadow? Whom do you seek? Jesus broke the silence, his voice steady yet tender, cutting through the murmurs of anticipation. Jesus of Nazareth, the soldiers replied, their grip tightening around their weapons, emboldened by orders yet unaware of the might before them. It is I, replied Jesus, his words resonating truth. The moment felt elongated, suspended like a thick fog over the sea, heavy with the knowledge of what was to come. As he spoke, a wave of power seemed to ripple through the air, causing those present to take a collective step back, momentarily overwhelmed. Bewilderment mirrored on their faces hinted at a deeper understanding, one that was obscured by fear. The sight ignited something within the disciples, an instinct to protect their teacher. Peter, fueled by a mixture of adrenaline and anger, unsheathed his sword, the metal glinting ominously under the moonlight. In a frenzied clash, he struck at the soldiers, missing his mark but catching an ear of the high priest's servant. Blood pooled on the ground, a grim testament to the chaos that had unfolded. "Put your sword back. For all who draw the sword will die by the sword," Jesus said, his voice a balm to the chaos, yet fierce in authority. Kneeling to the ground, he touched the wound, restoring the severed ear with a mere whisper, an act of grace amidst betrayal. The miracle hung in the air for a fleeting moment, leaving everyone stunned. How could such an unwavering love exist in human conflict? The arrest, however, was inevitable. The soldiers seized Jesus, binding his hands while the disciples scattered like leaves in a storm. Reflecting on the rugged path they had traveled together, shadows of their faith began to waver. Would they truly follow him into the unknown? As they fled into the darkness, the last remnants of trust echoed in their hearts, weaving a fabric of fear and longing. In the silence that hung after the storm, deeper truths emerged. The garden no longer felt just like a place of sacred prayer but now stood as the theater for mankind's greatest conflict, the confrontation of hope against despair. And even as the path ahead spiraled into uncertainty, echoes of a deeper purpose whispered through the ages. What awaited them beyond the impending darkness? Would they recognize their own frailty and find strength in the lingering whisper of his love? As dawn approached, tendrils of light pierced the horizon, illuminating the garden where turmoil had unfolded. The first rays sought to mend the wounds made in the night, but the air remained thick with unresolved tension. In the heart of the garden, the stone that had been smoothed by countless teaching moments bore witness to the chaos, as if the very soil had absorbed the weight of betrayal. Peter, darting through the shadows, felt the heat of shame rise within him. Each step was heavy with regret, but his feet moved on their own accord, driven by a deep-seated loyalty that contradicted his fear. He remembered the fervent promise to never abandon Jesus, to follow him even unto death. Yet now, the dust of uncertainty clouded his mind. Had he truly understood the depth of those words? Meanwhile, a few of the disciples, having fled to a distance, gathered in frightened whispers, their eyes darting toward the flickering torches that marked the presence of soldiers beyond the tree line. They sought refuge in their memories of the miracles, the teachings, and the joy of being near the Master. Was it all in vain? One whispered, the tremor in his voice betraying the cracks in their conviction. As the sunrise unfolded, a figure emerged from the distance, moving with purpose and clarity. In his eyes shone a steadfastness that belied the turmoil surrounding him. It was John, the beloved disciple, who had remained until the final moment in the garden. He walked with an unusual serenity, as though he had glimpsed something profound amid the chaos. "We must gather," he urged, "we need to understand what this means for us." Back in the garden, whispers of troubled thoughts mingled with the rustle of leaves. The walls that had sheltered their camaraderie now bore the marks of separation and doubt. Jesus' spirit lingered, a silent testament to the message of love and sacrifice, yet it seemed overshadowed by the betrayal of Judas and the retreat of his closest friends. As they reconvened, Peter trembled on the edge of speech, grappling with the weight of remorse. Can we really face what is coming? Will we have the strength to follow him into this valley of shadows? His question hung heavy, as they realized their bonds were now coiled with fear and uncertainty. The lessons they had learned about forgiveness, compassion, and faith began to feel distant, as if the very foundations of their beliefs were being dismantled. They exchanged glances, an unspoken acknowledgement dawning among them. The fear of their own shortcomings had begun to erode the trust they had built around their leader. Just then, in the distance, a jubilant crow sounded, a stark contrast to their somber gathering. It echoed through the air, challenging the prevailing sense of hopelessness. The disciples glanced toward the sky, where the first birds of the morning danced freely, unfettered by the conflict that plagued those below. "Creation still sings," John murmured thoughtfully. "Perhaps amidst our confusion, there is a greater truth at work. Who will we become in the shadow of this struggle?" As their shared contemplation deepened, a question began to stir in the hearts of the disciples, lingering like the dawn's light unfurling against the remnants of night. Would they be bold enough to confront their own fears, trusting in the promise of a love that transcended their understanding? And as the sun continued to rise, illuminating the path ahead, what new revelations awaited them in the unfolding drama of faith? As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the disciples drew closer to each other, a circle formed by fear and lingering ties of love. They searched each other's eyes for answers, yet they found only the same turmoil that roiled within themselves. Each heart beat as a reminder of the bond they once shared, a bond now strained by doubt and trepidation as they faced an uncertain future. Amid this uneasy gathering, John broke the silence again. Do you remember the stories he told us? The parables of the lost sheep, the wayward son? In those moments, he taught us that love is relentless, it chases us down even into the darkest corners of our hearts. We must not forget that. Peter's voice trembled as he recalled the lessons, but what if we are the sheep that stray? What if we're the ones who betray him? The weight of his own failure loomed heavily upon him, as shadows began to dance in his mind, haunting him with images of his denial yet to come. Do you think we will ever find forgiveness? A younger disciple asked, glancing down, the vivid red of dawn illuminating the teardrops that threatened to spill upon the ground. His voice was filled with uncertainty as he clung to hope. Forgiveness is surely greater than our failures, and the grace that binds us surpasses even our worst betrayals, John replied, his eyes intent on something just beyond their fears. We must open our hearts to the truth that he embodied. Love does not merely forgive, it transforms. The disciples shifted, grappling with this notion, as if trying to stretch their understanding of love like one might stretch parchment over a frame, testing its limits. Could the love of their master carry them through this darkness? Yet just as the sun brightened the garden, a soft rustle captured their attention. A figure approached with hesitant steps, the dust of the road clinging to his cloak. As he drew nearer, the remaining disciples recognized him as one of their own, Thomas, who had inexplicably slipped away in the chaos of the garden's night. Where have you been? Peter's voice was low, edged with betrayal and relief. We feared you might perish like the rest of us. Thomas, his brow furrowed under the weight of his journey, replied, I went to find solace, but instead I found a multitude of questions. He paused, glancing beyond his companions towards the towering hills on the horizon. What are we to make of the signs that have been revealed? Shadows have their own stories, and within those shadows, I witnessed hope shattering through the clouds of despair. Hope? James echoed, a hint of skepticism creeping into his voice. Hope whilst surrounded by the evidence of our failure? Yes, Thomas affirmed, his conviction rising as he spoke. In the faces of the people I encountered those who spoke of healing, those who longed for the truth. They awakened something within me. I realized, as we commandeer our fears, we may become vessels of his love too. In honoring our pain, we bring hope to the world. At this revelation, a flicker of inspiration sparked within the group. Could they indeed transform from timid followers into bearers of faith? Their doubts began to intertwine with a twisted thread of possibility, threading their fear with an urge to explore a truth beyond their betrayals. The crowing of another bird, a distant cry demanding to be heard, resonated like a clarion call in the tension-laden air. In that moment, Peter glanced skyward, pondering the open air and the life beyond the garden that now felt confined. But what does this all mean for us? How do we bear the weight of our fragility and still follow him? A profound silence enveloped them, each one caught in thought as the echoes of their misgivings mingled with the essence of what they had witnessed. The path before them would not be easy, but perhaps with every step taken into the unknown, every tear shed in the light of truth, they might one day discover what it truly meant to love without bounds. As they stood together, hearts entwined yet trembling in uncertainty, a question loomed larger than the shadows of their doubt: what would become of them in the face of grievous failures? And as the light continued to unfurl, could their journey lead to a revelation even greater than they could imagine? Amidst the vibrations of the awakening world, as life continued to push through the cracks of despair, the circle of disciples held on to their hesitations and questions. It was as if the garden, heavy with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, mirrored their tumultuous emotions, both dark and beautiful. As Thomas spoke, an energy began to uncoil itself within the group, yet uncertainty still loomed over each heart. The sunlight that filtered through the leaves cast dapples on their faces, illuminating the conflict between hope and fear. With each beat of time, they wrestled with their understanding of what it meant to be followers of a man who had embraced the path of suffering. Thomas, sensing their lingering hesitation, felt the urge to share more of his journey, one he had experienced beyond the garden's borders. On my path, I encountered a widow at the city gate. She wept for her lost son, exuding a sorrow that seemed to cascade over her like a shroud. I approached her, uncertain of what comfort I could offer. And as I listened, I felt a wave of compassion wash over me, urging me to speak. His voice softened. In that moment, as I took her hand, I realized that true connection transforms the narrative of pain into one of shared suffering and strength. The disciples leaned in, captivated by the story, for they were aching for a purpose beyond the darkness that encircled them. John, always the perceptive one, grasped the essence of that moment. What you witnessed bears truth for us all, Thomas. Suffering alone can be isolating, but together, it becomes the cradle of understanding and love. Perhaps our shared journey is not solely about what we lose, but rather what we can give to others. Peter nodded slowly, the flicker of understanding igniting a spark within him. But what are we meant to give when our own hearts are bruised? How can we lead others when we feel so lost ourselves? His voice trembled at the notion of inadequacy. Maybe, James interjected, his tone contemplative, it's precisely our vulnerabilities that draw others near. It is our capacity to love despite our own brokenness that mirrors his essence. An unspoken sense of unity began to weave through the group as they held on to the thought that their frailty might become their strength. The air filled with a sacred silence, as if echoes from the divine lingered just beyond their reach, whispering truths yet to be unveiled, yet, doubt still cast its long shadow. Each man remained haunted by their past decisions, their futures clouded by moments that weighed heavily on their conscience. The memories of betrayal, of fear, and of misgiving intertwined like the roots of the trees surrounding them. What if we never understand? What if the answers to our questions remain elusive? A young disciple dared to voice, breaking the stillness like a gentle wind through the branches. Answers, John responded softly, may not always come cloaked in clarity. Perhaps they lie dormant in the act of living itself, in how we face our failures and choose to love amidst the brokenness. With his heart pounding louder than his words, Peter felt compelled to speak once more. Then let us be a testament to his love, not for the sake of perfection, but as a declaration of our earnest journey. With every step forward, may we strive to embody that love for one another and the world beyond this garden. The sun continued to traverse the sky, casting long shadows behind them. Each disciple absorbed the weight of what lay ahead, still unsure of the path they would take. Would they find the courage to turn their pain into purpose? Could their hearts, fragile as they felt, truly bear the burden of hope? As they gathered their resolve, a question lingered in the air like a delicate hymn. What if, in seeking to love without bounds, they discovered not just forgiveness but a deeper truth within themselves that was waiting in the shadows? As the sun began its descent, casting vivid hues across the sky, a hush fell over the garden, mirroring the stillness within the hearts of the disciples. They were poised at the edge of a profound understanding, suspended between their old lives and the promise of a new beginning. The fragrance of jasmine enveloped them, an ethereal reminder of transformation, as though the night itself bore whispers of mysteries yet to be revealed. Do you feel it? Matthew spoke softly, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the golden light kissed the earth. There's a pulse in the air, as if the world is alive with anticipation. The others nodded, recognizing that the moment held more than just a transition of day to night, it was a threshold they were poised to cross. Yet, amid the spark of hope, shadows of doubt lingered. They glanced at one another, each wondering if their faith could truly withstand the coming trials. The words of Jesus echoed within them, teachings of love, sacrifice, and the promise of something greater. But what did those teachings really mean now, in the face of their fear and questioning? Suddenly, James broke the serenity. Brothers, we've held on tightly to our memories of him, but have we truly grasped who he is? When he walked amongst us, did we understand the essence of his message? Peter contemplated this, a frown furrowing his brow. His words were cryptic, at times parables wrapped in mystery. Did he not admonish us to listen beyond the surface? Perhaps in our quest for clarity, we have overlooked the deep wells of wisdom he offered. And what about all those times we forgot to ask him the right questions? Thomas added, his voice filled with a bittersweet realization. How many revelations did we overlook because we were too steeped in our expectations? Silence enveloped them once more, the weight of their reflections settling in the air. Each disciple felt an unsettling yet motivating shift, akin to an awakening. They had followed a man who had spoken of a kingdom, yet none of them fully understood what that kingdom truly entailed. Do you recall the moment when he broke the bread, and veiled the meaning of true fulfillment? John asked, referencing the Last Supper, when they had nibbled on simple loaves, unaware of the gravity that moment carried. Yes, Peter responded, a shiver coursing through him. He spoke of his body being given for us, but we didn't comprehend the depth of such a gift. Was it not an invitation to surrender our own cravings for something far more nourishing? Perhaps we have mistaken his love for mere affection, Matthew murmured, grappling with a dawning understanding. He calls us not just to believe but to embody that love in our suffering, to see it as a part of the whole journey. As the sun dipped beyond the horizon, darkness began to blanket the garden, yet the stars emerged, blinking softly overhead, a constellation of hope against the void. The disciples, now encircled by night, pondered the significance of their shared experiences and struggles. Here, in this sacred space, they found comfort in the shared tension of their doubts and fears. Maybe that's why he entrusted us with each other, James proposed, looking around the circle. In our brokenness, we can lift each other, and through our collective journey, we unlock the truths that lie hidden from our view. It's in the sharing of these burdens that his love shines brightest. Yet even as they embraced the possibility of togetherness, a question uncoiled steadily within them: if the truths they sought danced in the shadows, how would they bring them into the light? Would their journey together reveal the deeper essence of Jesus, or would it lead them further into the labyrinth of mystery? As the darkness deepened around them, the only sound was the soft rustling of leaves in the evening breeze. The air grew cool, carrying with it the rich scents of the earth, and with it, a palpable tension hung. The uncertainty of what awaited them loomed unspoken among the disciples. They sat together, each lost in their thoughts, yet united in the presence of the unknown. John, with a thoughtful expression, broke the silent reflection. What of Judas? The one who betrayed him? Did we ever truly know him? His voice trembled, awakening memories of confusion and betrayal. His actions haunt us still. Was he part of a greater plan, or did he simply lose his way? At times, I felt he saw the depths of Christ's identity clearer than any of us, Matthew replied, reminiscing about Judas's fervent questions and insights. Yet, that same depth seemed to pull him into shadows rather than light. Was it not fear that drove him to betrayal? That fear, Peter mused, staring into the encroaching dark, it could be our greatest enemy. What if it shaped the choices we made? The words we left unspoken? Did we let our fears bind us to misunderstanding him? Their hearts weighed heavy with the complexities of faith and doubt intertwined, as they considered the gravity of Judas's choice. In some way, he was a mirror reflecting their own struggles, an enigmatic reminder of what happens when confusion takes root. Yet, despite his betrayal, Jesus still called him friend, James said slowly, a newfound understanding dawning. What does that reveal about the nature of love? Is it not stunningly expansive, even encompassing those who falter? Thomas, who had been introspective, added, in that final act of betrayal, perhaps we saw a reflection of our own uncertainties. If Jesus can extend grace to Judas, then it beckons us to embrace the very contradictions in our own hearts. Could it be that his invitation to love encompasses even our doubts? Encouraged by this reflection, Matthew looked at each of his brothers. If we acknowledge our fears and failures, do we not also start to illuminate the shadows? Experience shows that it is often in our struggles that the greatest truths emerge. As the stars shone brightly above, each disciple began to see that their weakness could give rise to strength through mutual support. Their fragility became the bedrock of belief woven through the fabric of their burdens, shared and illuminated by the present darkness. Union in our brokenness, John affirmed, could it be the key to uncovering deeper meanings? Maybe the kingdom he spoke of is not a distant hope but a vibrant reality birthed through our love for one another. Even amidst confusion and despair, are we ready to open our hearts to such profound love? Peter questioned, as he looked toward the sky. Are we prepared to embrace vulnerability amidst the storms ahead? The disciples fell silent once more, contemplating the weight of responsibility that lay upon them. It was clear that their lives were irrevocably intertwined with the love that Jesus had modeled, a love that boldly embraced the unlovable, yet, within this newfound light, a lingering uncertainty shimmered. If embracing each other amidst doubt can lead to enlightenment, what if they faltered in their journey? Would their frailties sink them further into despair, or could they rise together, stronger than ever? As night deepened, so too did their questions, echoing through the vastness of the garden, heartfelt, aching, and unresolved. As the night deepened, the cool breeze carried whispers of ancient stories, each leaf rustling as if imparting secrets long forgotten. The disciples sat together in the stillness, their breaths mixing with the fragrance of the olive trees around them. The weight of their collective musing sustained an unspoken bond, yet doubt lingered in the shadows, as tangible as the darkness enveloping them. Thomas, still wrestling with his thoughts, broke the silence. What if Judas was not just an outcast among us, but rather a key to understanding the depths of Jesus' mission? Could it be that his betrayal was a necessary piece in the larger tapestry of redemption? Matthew considered this, his brow furrowing. Might we have misjudged him? Did he not, in his desperation, fulfill a part of the plan we cannot yet grasp? Perhaps our fear and anger towards him cloud our understanding of a divine purpose. The scripture speaks of love that transcends understanding, Peter replied, his voice steady amidst the uncertainty. If Jesus chose to love so unconditionally, maybe in Judas' actions, there lies an invitation to look at our own shortcomings. Are we not, too, seekers of clarity in our confusion? James leaned forward, the flicker of a distant torch illuminating his face. It is easy to separate ourselves from Judas, to cast him aside as a betrayer. But in doing so, do we not risk losing sight of our own betrayals? How often have we turned away from what we knew to be true when faced with fear or temptation? Silence hung for a moment, thick with the weight of reflection, as the disciples pondered their own frailties. The night was heavy with more than just shadows, it held the essence of their struggle, a shared burden of uncertainty that twisted within them like the gnarled roots of the trees. John, ever the seeker of truth, voiced what clung to his heart. If Judas' actions were part of this unfolding story, what does that say about our perception of right and wrong? How do we discern the voice of God in the cacophony of our fears and desires? As they contemplated this, a rustle in the underbrush caught their attention. The figure of a woman emerged from the gloom, her presence a soft glow amidst the darkness. It was Mary Magdalene, her face marked with both fear and resolve. "Disciples," she began, her voice trembling, "I bring news from the Master." The disciples exchanged uncertain glances. Mary was always alive with faith, yet the urgency in her tone pierced the tension of the night's discourse. "He speaks of betrayal and of love intertwined. He has called upon us to hold space for both. In every fracture, there is the chance for wholeness, but you must not turn away from yourselves. Do not fear the darkness of your hearts but instead illuminate it with understanding." "What do you mean?" Thomas asked, having not foreseen her intrusion. "Each of us carries the weight of our choices, our doubts," she continued, standing firm as if rooted in the soil of truth. "Judas is part of our journey. His betrayal did not sever the bond Jesus shares with us. Instead, it lays bare the honesty of our own struggles. In seeing him, we glimpse the reflection of our own humanity and the profound necessity of grace." As the night wore on, her words settled like the dew upon grass, inviting revelation amidst uncertainty. The disciples felt a stirring within their vulnerabilities, no longer condemning but calling forth a deeper understanding of love's vast embrace. Yet, as they mulled over Mary's revelations, an unsettling thought arose: if understanding Judas could deepen their comprehension of Jesus' love, what truths lay hidden in their own hearts yet to be revealed? Would they have the courage to confront them, or would they retreat into fear, allowing shadows to smother the light of grace once more? The stars twinkled seamlessly above as the disciples continued to grapple with the weight of Mary Magdalene's words. The stillness of the night contrasted sharply with the tempest of emotions swirling within them, a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. They cast furtive glances at one another, the quiet rustle of leaves mirroring the unspoken questions tugging at their souls. With the air thickening with contemplation, James broke the silence once more. If indeed Judas fulfilled a part of our Master's plan, where does that leave us in our responses to our own betrayals? Are we merely players in a divine narrative, or are we also co-authors of our own misdeeds? How do we reconcile our human frailty with our call to be messengers of love? Peter added, his brow knitted in concern. What if we are meant to reflect upon our actions, to learn from our stumbling, rather than hide them in shame? Mary nodded, her expression earnest. The Master has not instructed us to live in perfection, but in love. For it is through our struggles and our open hearts that the beauty of grace emerges. We must embrace the brokenness, not to glorify it, but to find the healing within it. John's mind raced. But how can we find healing when we are so entangled in our emotions? If we resent Judas for his betrayal, does that not blur our own understanding of forgiveness? How can we move forward with a heart that still carries bitterness? Forgiveness begins with the recognition of our shared humanity, Mary replied, her voice steadying. Just as Judas faltered, we too have moments of weakness. Each choice he made, guided by fear or despair, resonates with our own darker inclinations. It is only by acknowledging this connection that we can approach the Master, not as judge and jury, but as humble seekers of grace. As her words flowed over them like a bomb, a flicker of hope ignited in the hearts of the disciples. They began to envision their own struggles and failures, the times they had turned their backs in fear, the moments they had been less than they aspired to be. Matthew turned to the others, a spark of realization lighting his eyes. Is there a difference between betrayal and misunderstanding? Judas saw a world shifting under his feet. Perhaps he thought his actions would force the hand of Jesus. How often do we misconstrue our own desires as the path towards righteousness, only to end in despair? Yes, Thomas sighed, a deep wave of understanding flowing through him. If we can accept that our desires are often clouded by fear, then perhaps forgiveness is an act of clarity rather than an absolution of crime. It's about shifting our gaze to love, rather than the actions themselves. Mary smiled gently, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. And that is where we begin our journey, not by condemning Judas, nor simply condoning his actions, but by reflecting on how we too can choose love over fear. Yet, just as the flickering light of comprehension illuminated their hearts, a darker shadow briefly passed over them. The path toward grace seemed strewn with unseen obstacles. Was their understanding truly genuine? Were they, too, just a treacherous heartbeat away from their own betrayals? Would they find the strength to explore the depths of their hearts openly, shunning the cloak of denial? Or would shadows of self-doubt pull them back from the precipice of transformation, leaving their souls entangled in a cycle of fear? As the dawn broke over the horizon, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the veil of night, revealing the garden in a new light. The disciples stood amidst the remnants of their doubts, each grappling with their thoughts and fears, yet now bathed in the warmth of possibility. Mary Magdalene's words reverberated in their hearts, awakening a yearning for understanding forged in the crucible of their unique struggles. Peter, his face etched with shadows of uncertainty, turned to the group and spoke with a tremor in his voice. What if the true invitation we receive is to move from the darkness of betrayal into the light of redemption? Is it not in our very brokenness that we encounter the depth of his love? Thomas, still with questions swirling in his mind, nodded thoughtfully. If we can confront our fear of failure, we may yet transform our misunderstanding into a fresh understanding of grace, a grace that calls us to love without conditions, as Jesus did. Matthew, encouraged by the flicker of hope around him, suggested, perhaps our journey ahead must be filled with the acknowledgement of our doubts and failures. What if we embrace them, not as stumbling blocks, but as foundations upon which to build a view of love that can envelop even our darkest moments? An invigorated sense of purpose began to ripple through the group. Even as night merged into day, it served as a reminder that every shadow held secrets waiting to be unveiled by the light. John's eyes sparkled with realization as he contemplated their shared journey. And in recognizing our imperfections, we create space for one another's vulnerabilities. We have witnessed the power of love in its most raw form, now we must nurture that flame. As they gathered closer, a wave of understanding surged through their hearts, igniting a shared commitment to not only follow the path of Jesus but to live it in the most authentic light. They would no longer shy away from their fears, nor allow the haunting specter of Judas to define their journey. Instead, they would embrace it, recognizing that every person, including themselves, was a tapestry woven for moments of both light and shadow. "Let us speak of our fears," Peter urged, his voice steadying as the sun rose higher, illuminating their surroundings. "In that distillation of honesty, may we transform our resentment into understanding, allowing His love to cascade over us like a river of grace." Each disciple took a deep breath, sharing their fears, regrets, and aspirations, as if unfurling their souls in the light of that new dawn. Their laughter mingled with tears, transforming the garden from a place of betrayal into one of profound healing. Mary stepped forward, her presence a steadfast anchor. "As we face our darkest fears together, we become a living testament to His love, an embodiment of compassion that reaches out, extending grace to others as we have received it. In our unity, we invoke the Spirit of our Master, breathing life into the promise He offered us." Just then, a flood of birds took to the sky, the sound of their wings a symphony of hope, echoing off the walls of the garden. The freedom they conveyed became a powerful metaphor, urging the disciples to shed the shackles of their past and soar into the promise of transformation that awaited them. With renewed vigor, they recalled the teachings of Jesus, each parable echoing the themes of love, forgiveness, and redemption they now so earnestly sought to embody. "To love deeply, we must forgive freely," Thomas declared, breaking through the air thick with awakening possibility. "So let us lift one another from the grips of our fears and insecurities, recognizing that our collective strength lies within our shared journeys." As each one spoke their truths, an overwhelming sense of belonging enveloped them. They would no longer run from their struggles, nor allow their past to dictate their future. Instead, they would let the beauty of grace flow through them, illuminating the path for themselves and for those they would encounter along their journey. In that sacred moment, an extraordinary revelation dawned. The darkest night that once clouded their minds had birthed a deeper understanding of love that was pure and unfathomably profound. They now realized that the greatest testimony they could offer was not of perfection but of genuine transformation, a journey paved by the very struggles that once sought to destroy them. As dawn broke fully, the garden stood in all its glory. The shadows receded, washed away by the light of the new day and the spirit of hope that blossomed within each disciple's heart. Their shared commitment to embody love and grace would lead them to places of healing not only for themselves but for the world that still lay shrouded in darkness, and so, they pledged together, hand in hand, hearts intertwined, to step boldly into the purpose set before them. No longer defined by the betrayals of the past, they would rise as emissaries of love, reminding the world that even in their deepest struggles, they were a testament to the enduring power of grace. As they moved toward the horizon, carrying the light of their Master in their hearts, the morning air filled with the scent of newly blossomed flowers, each one a beacon of hope. And the garden, once a place of turmoil, became a symbol of transformation, echoing the truth that love, when intertwined with vulnerability, can illuminate even the darkest paths. With every step forward, they knew their journey would uncover not only their own hearts but the very heart of humanity itself. Thus, they ventured forth, not as mere followers, but as courageous warriors of faith, ready to embrace every challenge, every joy, and every love that awaited them.